All right, Evan Turner, 10-year NBA veteran, former number 2 overall pick in the draft, National College Player of the Year. You have been part of this podcast for 1 week, and you are already starting to make some news. I woke up the day after our first show to see all these aggregators out there jump on your take that Austin Reaves is not a third option on a championship team. Do you want to begin with that?
Yeah, no. So for one, I'm a big Austin Reaves fan. I think most of you don't remember how I played, but I play like a poor man's version of Austin Reaves. Like sometimes I watch him play and I'm like, dang, I wish somebody put me in that role because it's fun. He's exciting to watch. And, obviously he's so talented. I think when it comes to your third option, not only do you have to be a guaranteed 20 plus in this era, even in a playoff time, you got to be ready to throw in 25, but you also got to be ready to step up and defend and, kind of be a third option problem in general for the contenders. There's been first option problems. We talked about Isaiah Thomas just recently. Like there's certain people with their first options and they might not be a full problem for the real contenders. And I think Austin Reaves, he needs to be more of like I think he needs to creep up on you even more. He needs to be the fourth guy. You understand what I'm saying? And not saying the third guy is better offensively, but it could be a DeAndre Hunter. How Cleveland got DeAndre Hunter. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like you need a player like that can lock down a superstar, guarantee he'll get 17 or 18, and you can't leave him open. As opposed to Austin Reaves, once you get into playoff basketball, that defense is set. You have a lot of great coaches sitting there for a week watching all your tendencies. Like it becomes kind of tough, especially in the land of LA and trying to get through a whole final series. Like James Harden struggles to do that. He's never made it to the finals playing that way. You know what I mean? Only Luka has, but just what he does and what Luka likes to do they kind of bump heads. Am I wrong for saying that?
No, I think that's fair. I also can't wait for Austin Reaves' his first 40-point game of the season when he's like, take that, Evan Turner.
Oh, no, I would love that. I would love that. I would love that. I'm a big Austin Reaves fan, like I said, and he gave me a great interview back in the day. And obviously, whenever they bring my name up, it's a slow day in sports. So I guess that's it.
All right. Speaking of slow days in sports, we are kind of in that dry period before the start of the NBA season. You've got opening night still days away. So I want to take this podcast to talk about some of the teams that we're probably not going to talk much about during the regular season. Teams that are kind of flying under the radar. And I want to start with Sacramento only because they made some news this week when they signed Russell Westbrook to a 1-year deal. This was widely expected that the Kings would find a way to bring Westbrook in. What I was initially told was they were talking about bringing him in if they could do a trade for Jonathan Kuminga, because if they traded Kuminga, they probably would have traded Malik Monk, which would have opened up a guard spot back there. That deal never came to fruition, but they signed Westbrook anyway, adding him to that mix of teams. So, like, putting aside the Westbrook signing, and that's fine, whatever. I think Russ deserves to still be in the league. Yeah. To me, Sacramento is the most irrelevant team in the NBA. they just are. They're not the worst team in the NBA, but they're the most irrelevant. Like, are they better than Utah? Yeah, but Utah to me is more interesting because they've got Ace Bailey, some young guys. I want to see how they come together as a team. Portland, same thing. I mean, I think Young Hansen alone makes them more relevant than Sacramento. Even teams like Washington with the young guys they have there, I think they're more relevant. This is a team that of the kind of would-be contenders that are trying to win something, they have the lowest ceiling of any of these teams in the league. And look, I always said that the team that signed Russell Westbrook this season was going to be a team that was just like, screw it, we got nothing else to lose, let's sign the guy. And lo and behold, there's Sacramento, which has a team of like guys you kind of like, but nobody that you love. They've got, Keegan Murray, who's a good young player, but not a great one. Domantas Sabonis, who's an all-star, but probably not one that you can build a championship team around. I just thought this signing of Westbrook was kind of perfect for Sacramento, which is a team that is on that hamster wheel going absolutely nowhere fast. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I thought Russ was a great low risk bet. I mean, it won't put the team into an instant contender, but it breaks off with the glaring weaknesses. I know a lot of people aren't high on Russ, but last year he still averaged 13 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and he played pretty well with Jokic. And you see how Sacramento tries to use DeMontis in similar form as Jokic. I think when it comes down to tenacity and experience, it matters, but Sacramento keeps trying to recycle the same mid. I live in Chicago, and we were kind of struggling with the DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine duo, and it ended up moving on and taking them and bringing that show out there. You know what I'm saying? So I just think Sacramento's just trying to stay afloat. Their last real high moment, Steph Curry ruined it a couple years ago in Game 7, and I think they're trying to hold on to all that momentum.
Yeah, I just don't know what the direction of the team is, other than let's try not to piss our fans off too much. I mean, 2 years ago they looked like a rising team, 50+ wins, the whole light the beam stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good
Sabonis
time.
and Fox. It was fun out in Sacramento. You played there. They've got great fans in Sacramento. Yeah. When they're competitive, it's fun to be around that team. But all the moves they've made, and look, the Fox deal was kind of forced on them. They didn't, continue to build on the success from a couple of years ago. And Fox said, look, I'm not signing a contract extension, so they really had no choice. But what they got for Fox, putting LaVine and DeRozan back together didn't make a lot of sense. You bring in Dennis Schroeder, who's been on half the teams in the league at this point. Sabonis, again, puts up monster numbers, but doesn't do enough defensively to make you believe he's a starting center on a team that can do more than make the playoffs. I know teams like Utah, teams like Washington, teams like Portland, you can disagree with the roster construction, you can disagree with the guys they have, but they have a direction, right? They have a plan for what they're going to do. I don't know what Sacramento's plan is, other than just try to compete for a 500 record, get into the play-in mix, and live to fight another day.
Yeah, that's what I think so too. I feel like they've been such behind the 8 ball when it comes down to it. They've tried to clean things up and they just made it 10 times worse. And right now, when it's coming down to trying to keep the fan base engaged, like you said, they're going to try to make it to the playing game and then just try to win the media narrative and say, hey, we're trying again. We're trying again. We're trying again. So I won't be watching too many Sacramento Kings games this year, and I'll see them to play, and that's when we'll pay attention to them again, because I don't think they know what they're really doing over there. I think they kind of got backed into their corner when they built so much into De'Aaron Fox, and you see today they just gave Keegan Murray $150 million, and it's I love Keegan Murray to death, but you know what I'm saying? It's just when it rains, it pours. They just need to stop.
Yeah, that's a team that needs to be dismantled. I think there's probably still a market for Zach LaVine. There's a market for DeMar DeRozan. These are bucket getters that on the right team can make a difference. But, on this team, it makes no sense. Just an incredibly low ceiling. I think that if they keep this team together, it's going to be bad. It's going to be a bad, disappointing season.
And when you talk about a market, the narrative is it's always a market for DeMar DeRozan. It's always a market for Zach LaVine. And sometimes it hasn't happened yet. And when it's coming down to it, is there a market for Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan to come off the bench or to try to load up a contender? And their contracts aren't going to say so. And you're going to be stuck into a brand of basketball that the league has grown past. They don't really shoot many threes. They fired the coach. They have 2 mid-range players. They got their main ball handler, Sabonis. Shout out to Dennis Schroeder. He was one of the best guards in the world this summer, but, sometimes the season he doesn't really find his way either. You're going to have to eventually rely so heavy on a 17 or 18-year vet to be the mental force or the locker room identity. And he just got into the locker room. He just signed the other day.
Yeah. I guess the argument for keeping LaVine and DeRozan is that you can get some financial flexibility. I mean, LaVine, He's got a player option next year. I mean, I guess he picks it up. $48 million. Nobody's giving him that in the offseason, though. DeMar DeRozan's got a non-guaranteed his last year, so I guess you can get off that deal. And DeRozan only making $24 million. In today's NBA, that's a tradable salary. These are the guys. These are the guys they got to move off of. Malik Monk, $18 million per year. Is there a market out there for him? I mean, they got to get draft capital. They got to get younger. They got to get young pieces that actually get you excited. Because right now, I mean, I think Keegan Murray's a good fourth option on a good team. I think he can shoot it, obviously, but beyond that, I don't like what they're doing. All right, let's talk about Charlotte, because I've been waiting, Evan, for a breakout season in Charlotte for some time now. It hasn't happened yet. We are now in year 6 of the LaMelo Ball era, and of those 6 years, only one of them have been a season that finished above 500. The last 3 years, the results have gone backwards. 27 wins, 21 wins, 19 wins last season. They have changed coaches. They have changed front offices. They have changed owners of this team. Nothing has worked up until this point. This is the year in Charlotte that it has to work. And look, it starts with LaMelo. He has to stay healthy. He has played more than 51 games just once in his first 5 seasons. That's unacceptable. He has to be better with the turnovers. Those numbers are cartoonish right now. He's got to be better with the shot selection. No more one-footed jumpers. That's not winning basketball. But if he can do that, I love him. I think he's an all-star. And look, I like Brandon Miller a lot too. I mean, his efficiency numbers stink, but I think once he settles down, he can be a second option on a good team and maybe a third option on a great team. Con Knipple has not shot the ball well in the preseason, but I'm choosing to believe that he can be a floor spacing wing. You got Miles Bridges, Colin Sexton, Grant Williams. This is the year Charlotte has to make a move. The Eastern Conference stinks. They've got enough talent to make the playoffs. They've got to be like a 500 team or better this year. I think that's enough to get into the postseason. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I think they also have to stay healthy. When you see LaMelo healthy with his 2 main wings with Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller, it's not saying much, but their point differential is plus. You know what I'm saying? And also, too, a lot of people have a lot of things to say about LaMelo Ball, but he's a proven scorer. He's averaged 25 points per game in the league. And correct me if I'm wrong, he's the youngest all-star ever. And I think some of the negativity that comes with it is the front office. Like, he hasn't really been put with the right team, the right type of pieces in order for him to be successful. You see, 3 or 4 years ago, they were able to make it to the play-in game, and that helped tremendously, and that was pretty impressive. And then after that, they got hurt a couple times. LaMelo had a 50-point game versus Milwaukee, 44 versus Orlando, and then injuries ensued after that. So he only got 47 games, and then Brandon Miller only got 27 games. But if you look at this skill set and this talent just individually amongst the other younger guys, it's pretty impressive. And if you get Miles Bridges in, who's been talking very, very good in the preseason last game versus Memphis, he had a hell of a game. I believe he had like 29, 10, and 5. He's a man amongst boys. He's been talking about everything positive and has been a vocal leader. And I think with, Charles Lee, the front office kind of changing their energy around. Con Knipple, he's not ready yet. And it's not fair for him to be ready yet, but he has good defensive instincts, and shooting always translates. They just have to get better at the big man position and give them a great opportunity for the young kids to be able to continue to develop, be able to stay healthy, and make a strong push. Their top 3 is tough this year.
Yeah, they've got if they can stay healthy, they've got a good top 3. I'm looking at their depth chart right now. LaMelo, Brandon Miller in the backcourt, that's solid. Con Knipple, Miles Bridges, Moussa Diabate. I mean, they gave away all their centers in the offseason, so they're kind of rebuilding. They just signed a guy today, too. Yeah, I think, look, I've heard good things about what Colin Sexton's doing down there. I thought Colin had a bit of a revival in Utah. I think he can be a really good 6th man for that team. Josh Green is fine. Trey Mann is fine. Yeah. Liam McNeely is still young. Pat Connaughton, what does he give them? I don't know. Look, it's not a contender, but is it a 500 team? Yeah, it should be a 500 team. Like when LaMelo Ball is playing 65, 70 games with Brandon Miller, that's enough to compete in the Eastern Conference. Like it should be more than enough.
And also, too, I think one thing that's an understatement is they rebuilt culture. They built winning players. You're like, I don't know what Connaughton's going to do. He's a great leader, great locker room guy, and he has championship experience. You move forward with Charles Lee, you see his pedigree. He was under a lot of great coaches. He's unbelievable. You look at Josh Green. He came from a great situation with the Mavericks. Liam McNeely, he played for UConn. He played for that Psycho Hurley. Like I think the personnel is a little bit different than when it was 4 or 5 years ago. Even Sion James, he has a history of, being affluent, taking the game very seriously. And I think it's all about the personnel. And sometimes it comes back down and like, you can't win with, idiots or jerks, or sometimes the little things that occur is like taking preseason very seriously. Miles Bridges is like, yo, I'm taking this preseason very serious. So towards the end of the year, it's like second nature to me. That conversation out there and how they're trying to move is at a completely different level. And I believe it starts with the culture. And whether we think so or not, Grant Williams is amazing for culture.
Grant Williams. Grant Williams, who I like. I like Grant Williams. I got to know him pretty well in Boston. I actually just talked to him this summer for a different story.
You're never not going to not talk to Grant Williams. Somehow I'm always saying, bro, I talk to Grant Williams like once a quarter somehow.
Look, they were bad in every category last year. Their offense was 29th. Their defense was 24th. They played with the 20th pace. Look at that pace number, Evan. They got to play faster. Like, they've got too many guys that fly around. And if LaMelo's out there healthy, they're going to play a lot faster this year. I think that's going to help that offense get maybe in the top half of the league or around there. There's just too much good young talent there, especially if Knipple can wind up playing reasonable minutes for them this season, for them to be in the mix.
Yeah, also, too, when it comes down to being young, that's the perk of having energy. Like, as a player that's been on veteran teams, we hate seeing youthful teams and seeing teams getting the ball up and down the court running. You got high flyers. You have a great passer like LaMelo. I expect Miles Bridges. I expect Brandon Miller. Even when you look at Mason Plumlee, I expect him to stay on the rim, play on the rim. So I think in order, they have to be able to get defensive stops and turn it into offense.
Yeah, I think for LaMelo, the discipline factor in this is real. Like, he can't play games like he's in a summer pickup game. Like, his turnover numbers are outrageous. They're always around 3.5, 4 per game, stacked against like 7, 8 assists per game. That's a bad assist to turnover ratio. Like, that's not what winning players do. And every highlight reel I see of LaMelo, it's like these one-footed, off-balance jump shots that are going in. Well, how about the ones that aren't? And I'm sure there are a lot of them that aren't going in. He's got, like, I think there obviously is all-star talent in there. I think he's just got to just harness it, channel it, be a more disciplined playmaker, get the ball to guys like Miller, who I think is going to be an automatic bucket in the years ahead. Miles Bridges, who loves playing with LaMelo, thrives in these games with LaMelo. Just play more discipline. Get that turnover number down to around like 2 per game. Get the assist numbers up to 8 or 9. He's off to the races, man. I think he's got to be a special player.
You're absolutely right. And I can compare him with another tall point guard like Tyrese Halliburton, who steadily goes and gets 30 points, 15 assists, and leaves out with 1 turnover. And all he's doing is controlling the pace at a high level and keeping the game efficient. He knows his killers on the wings. He knows his system, and he knows where his kill spots are. And I believe, like, just a few years ago, like, LaMelo was an all-star and Tyrese wasn't. So when you think about the potentiality and what he can do, it's like, it's doable. He just has to reel it in, like you said. And look how that offense in Indiana has been running. I
do think LaMelo benefited greatly from the fan vote, which was overwhelmingly in support of LaMelo that year.
Absolutely. But he wasn't one of those like personalities or players when I was like, bro, this guy should not be in this all-star game.
Yeah. No, he had the numbers. It's just his team stunk, and they were putting
of course.
A bad one. All right, let's talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. 3 years ago, the Grizz were coming off back-to-back 50-win seasons. They were the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. Ja Morant was a super-ish star. Jaren Jackson was right behind him. They were loaded with good young talent. It has not really gone well since then. There was all the off-the-court stuff with Ja Morant. They won a bunch of regular season games last year, but couldn't get it done in the playoffs, in part due to more injuries. for Ja Morant. I've seen a lot of different prognostications, ET, about where the Grizzlies are going to finish. I've seen people bullish on them being a top 4 seed. I've seen people saying they are a play-in team. I tend to lean towards the latter. I'm not as optimistic about Memphis's chances because I'm not optimistic. I'm not optimistic that this team can stay on the floor in one piece, that they can stay healthy.
Right.
I mean, I tweeted out a week ago when I saw one of the injury reports, like Memphis's injury report right now is in midseason form. You've got Ja Morant already injured, Zach Edey already injured, Jaren Jackson already injured, Brandon Clark already injured. Like they're already the walking wounded, and we haven't played an official game yet. So my skepticism of Memphis this year is because these guys have shown year after year that whether it's Jackson, Morant, or both, somebody's going to get hurt. One or two other guys in that rotation is going to get hurt. Where do you stand on the Grizzlies and their place in the hierarchy of the Western Conference?
Yeah, I think they're a low seed and they're a dark horse. Like you said earlier, the two main players, the franchise guys, continue to get hurt. Like Ja Morant is either injured and unfortunately in trouble more than he has been on the court. And I think that has affected like the direction of the franchise because once you saw Bane, the Bane trade and then firing the coach, I think everybody's just in the shifted gears mode. So I don't even know if they really want to win because with the Bane trade, they got 4 first-round picks. And then they still have a couple of good young players on the bench. What's the young man's name? Jalen Williams, right?
Yeah.
Not Jalen Williams.
Jalen Noel.
Jalen Noel. He had, before he broke his wrist, he was having a good rookie year. But
yeah, Gigi Jackson too. They've got some good pieces there.
You got a lot of good young guys that you can rebuild around and get that energy back. What made Memphis so good was the energy. When you watch it on the game, like it was one of the best like environments you could see. And I think right now with Ja and Jaren and the energy that's coming around, there's just not much going on. They traded a couple of their dogs, a couple of like the guys they grew up with, and I think it's just a new face, a new look. And when you're missing Desmond Bane, and then even when you're missing Dylan Brooks, he's been gone for a while, but that was part of the toughness. That was part of the chemistry, and those are important parts. And you just can't bank on Ja Morant being healthy for at least 55 or 60 games this year. And it seems like they almost do a thing like, if you ain't playing, I ain't playing. You know what I'm saying?
Jalen Wells, I should correct myself,
Wells
is the starting forward. They've got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in there. I think that is going to be solid. I think KCP is better than what he showed in Orlando, which had a stagnant offense. Jackson Jr. probably going to play power forward if they can get a healthy center out there. Santi Aldama is going to play some. Zach Edey, of course, when he gets healthy, whenever he gets healthy, is going to be in the mix. I just can't trust. I can't trust this team to give me like 60 plus games of their regular rotation, night in, night out. And there's more too. It's not, to me, it's not just health. Like they make this coaching change late last season. Is it going to work? Does this new system make sense? Are they going to get enough 3-point shooting to balance off the floor with Morant and Jackson on it? And look, the coaching staff was fired last year. Taylor Jenkins was fired last year, largely because they couldn't beat good teams. Like even when they had their guys, they weren't beating good teams in the second half of the season. Does that change this year? I mean, look, the numbers suggest that when Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson are both on the floor together, this team's pretty good. I don't know how many games that's going to be, though, for them this year. I just think they're going to struggle for a lot of reasons.
No, so like you said, the others, they need another solid 3-and-D guy. Like KCP, he's getting a little older. He has championship experience. I've always respected the way he stepped up with like good teams, but they don't need just one more 3-and-D guy. They need a couple of them. And I think they've lost shooting the past couple of years. I'm not mad at the Cole Anthony trade. I mean, he's always brought energy in, but you have a lot of, blanks mixed in with like a new coaching staff and people getting used to the new schemes and everything like that. And also, too, Ja Morant buying into it. Some of the stuff that occurred last year, they were saying Taylor Jenkins wasn't really vibing with Ja in regards to his usage rate and everything in that regard.
Yeah, Ja Morant wants to play heavy pick and roll. Like, is he going to be able to play that in this system? Does that make them successful? Once again, we'll see. But I think there are a lot of questions about that team that make me believe that when the season ends, we'll be talking about them as an 8, 9, 10 seed and not one of the teams sitting up there in the top 4. Let me ask you about the Pelicans, who are another really interesting team. I would say I'm not a gambling man, but I am. I am a very heavy gambling man. And I saw the
So
over under. It's all in the family.
So is your brother.
It's all in the family. I saw the over under for the Pelicans, which is sitting right at, I think when I checked it, like 31.5 wins. I don't know. I just thought that was really low for the Pelicans. And maybe that's because I'm, too in on like skinny Ozempic Zion or whatever we got going on there in New Orleans. But if he's healthy and as they gradually get some of these other guys back, I think they've got enough to compete for a play-in spot in the West. I mean, I love Herb Jones. He's another guy that missed a ton of time last year. Great two-way wing. Trey Murphy can shoot it. Their young guys are a question mark. Like, I was really down on Derek Queen before the draft. I was astonished that they traded an unprotected 2026 first-round pick to move up 10 spots to get a guy that even before that trade, I thought was one of the had the highest variance of any player that was projected to go in the lottery. Could Derek Queen turn into Zion 2.0? Yeah. Could he turn into a guy that's not athletic enough and has a slow shot, that's a shot that's too slow, that can make him a productive NBA player? I could see that too. Then Summer League came around, and before he got hurt, he looked great. And I'm cautious to, read too much into Summer League, but like maybe Derek Queen is better than I originally thought. Maybe Jeremiah Fears, who's only 18 years old, is going to be able to play more than I originally thought. And, part of it too is like when you've got a team that has no reason to lose, there's no draft pick waiting for them at the end of the season, you're going to get their best every single night. Yeah. And if you've got a coach in Willie Green that was not hired by the man in charge right now, Joe Dumars, this, he's going to be coaching for his job. I just think this team has the ability to hover around 500 this year. I know in the West it's tough and every single game is going to be a rock fight, but if Zion can play 65, 70 games, I'm more bullish on the Pelicans than some of the odds makers are. What do you think?
It's a big if. If Zion plays 65 or 70 games, I believe they can make the playoffs for sure. I think they will win above 31 games. It's just the one thing I don't like is like when Zion came out openly, it's like, oh yeah, this is a year I'm really locking in, taking care of my body, taking it seriously. And like sometimes it's like, bro, you can't, like you're a gambling man, you can't bet the mortgage with that mindset. You know what I'm saying? Only thing I really comprehend is like the desperation of it. They have no reason to lose games, and I think the more and more Trey Murphy steps up, the easier it'll be for Zion. I think that two-man duo will be pretty tough. And like you said, Herb Jones is an underrated defender. He's a long player. They have a lot of energy out there. And I believe in Jeremiah Fears a little bit more. He's 18 years old. He's had a couple of good games since we're bringing up Derek Queen's summer league. He had a decent summer league. And then he shot a decent during the preseason. He had a couple 20-point games. He stretched out. He's done a couple things where I'm like, okay, I can't wait to see how he develops. But I'm not against it if Zion shows up and he's going to be the force he is.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of questions. Like Kevon Looney, does he start? Is there more left in the tank than what it looked like at the end in Golden State? Misi, who looked like a terrific young player last year, does he take a step forward this year? I didn't love the Jordan Poole trade. Like,
never.
Just bringing a gunner into that mix. Like, I don't know. Maybe
it's almost like Jordan Clark said. You got to have an established unit to throw Jordan Poole in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're going to get low efficiency, numbers.
And he's an icing on a cake. Like, you know what I'm saying? And you got to do something with him. You got to do something with him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his shooting numbers the last 2 seasons. 2 seasons ago, 41% from the field. Last season, 43%. His three-point numbers were better last year. Shot about 38%, so that's not bad. Average 20 points per game. But he's 43% for a guard. That's a pretty low number. That's a high volume, low efficiency type of number. And how does that fit on this team? I didn't think they needed to do that deal.
I mean, with Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, they got them a statue in Toronto.
That's true. That's true.
With those numbers. So,
That's true.
like I said, much like an
I
Austin
guess
Reeves,
if you win with it, then yeah, you hit the field.
if you win with it, and of course, when you look at Jordan Poole, if he's your third or fourth best player, I think that's when he becomes dangerous. I don't think he even asked to have his own team when he went to DC. Nobody asked for that. But he played with a bunch of legends. He's a cool little kid that can get buckets. You know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
and now he's trying to figure it out. Even then, just trying to grow physically. But if Zion can step up, Trey Murphy can do his thing. Jordan Poole still has a history of getting buckets. And anytime a guy can average 20 points in the league, we can't undersell that, even if they got the crap beat out of them.
Yeah, and I guess we're also waiting to see with the Pelicans when DeJounte Murray is going to be able to return and, what he's going to look like when he comes back after tearing that ACL last year, or Achilles, I guess I should say, last year. So he's, like he said, at media days, looking at, around New Year's Eve, or at least people were talking around there, like around New Year's. Can he get back to being close to the player that he once was? If he can, great pickup. That's a great two-way guard. That's going to help them, and it takes a lot of pressure off Jordan Poole and others in that backcourt. But that those types of injuries, that's tough, man. That's tough to bounce back from right away. That's
absolutely.
not easy.
But he's still young, and I think one thing with that backcourt, that duo, until he gets his legs under him, he's got great defensive instinct. He's a great floor general. He can run the game. So up until he gets that scoring and his legs under him, that's where a Jordan Poole is going to be able to help him, and they can switch off combo guard off and on. But I think that will help them as long as they're in the right type of position.
Yeah. So I think both of us like the Pelicans to be anywhere from 35 to 40, beating those Vegas odds. I think that's a great bet to, a team that's going to play that hard. Like that's a team that's going to be okay. Last thing for you, you're going to Boston mid-November to honor your former teammate, Isaiah Thomas, at the TD Garden. You were a teammate for a couple of years when Isaiah blossomed into a superstar. That's in mid-November. What do you think the Celtics are going to look like at that point? Because, I think a lot of people are looking at Boston saying, well, they still got Jaylen Brown. They still got Peyton Pritchard. They still got Derek White. Those are reasons to be optimistic. Sam Hauser as well. On the flip side, their front court right now is Neemias Queta and Chris Boucher, which even in the Eastern Conference, that's tough. That's not a formidable front line. Do you think the Celtics? Are you of the mindset that the Celtics are going to be, competitive for one of those pre-play-in playoff spots, or do you think that they're going to struggle and wind up in that play-in mix this year?
No, I think they're going to be competitive. I think they're going to be very competitive. I got them by the time I get them. Well, November's so early, but I still got them a top 4 or 5 seed just finishing.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I said last week, anytime your main core has a identity of winning 50-plus games, and I feel like they have a culture that's gotten built. All they have to do is get right back to their defensive mindset. I think they have to ramp it up super crazy defensively. I think they're going to be a random dark horse. Even though they do only have Jaylen Brown and Derek White, those are still 2 elite guards. You're going to see a starting point guard, Peyton Pritchard. And I don't know if you've seen Anthony Simons during the preseason, but he's been shooting it pretty well. He's been playing pretty well. And I think Joe Mazzulla is going to take an Eric Spoelstra approach to coaching this year. I think they're going to have a next man up mentality. I think they're going to beat guys with their tenacity, and I think they're going to take it back from the pretty games where second nights of back-to-backs are going to mean even more to them. Thanksgiving games or the game before All-Star break, they're going to get back to blue collar and playing with desperation. So I think this is something that they're all accepting and just being hey, let's see how tough we are, because that's their core. That's who they are. And regardless, their defense is still going to be pretty good. And anytime in the East you have a good defense, that should help. Yeah.
Look, I don't think they're going to crater, but I'm more of the camp that's you're talking about them as a 7-8 seed, and assuming no Tatum return at the end of the season. Something that coaches talked to me about Jaylen Brown this year. Yes, he's going to have an outstanding year. He's going to be an all-star, a candidate for All-NBA. But what I hear is this is the year where I think they think Jaylen Brown is going to develop an even greater appreciation for Jason Tatum, because Jaylen Brown is going to get the Jason Tatum treatment this year. He is going to be the focal point for teams' defensive game plans. And he's never had to do that because Jason Tatum, in addition to being an all-NBA talent, has been one of the most durable guys in the NBA. He's played at least 74 games in each of the last 4 years. So he's been out there, for all these consequential games the Celtics have been in. Now, every single night, offense or defenses are going to be slanted towards Jaylen Brown. They're going to be sending their best defenders. They're going to be sending different defenses. Do you buy that like now that it's going to be a different look for Jaylen Brown being the number one option on this team?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, he's going to notice this guy that's been averaging 28 points per game for the past 4 or 5 years isn't there. I think besides of trying to handle the load of scoring, people underestimate how much Jason developed as a playmaker. So when we watched games last year when Jason would put together 28, 30 points, get 10 rebounds, he would still have 7 or 8 assists and also play in the flow of the game. They had 4 or 5 killers and he's still able to produce and get those numbers. So I think Jalen's going to learn a lot about being the number one option, but then also too of being hey, it's never too bad to have an arms race. To have all your guns with you. But it's great preparation for him. It's great development for him. But we can't undersell. He not only needs points, he needs to add assists as well. Because I forgot who said it last year. And they're whether we think so or not, Jason Tatum's the closest thing we got to Brian when it comes down to points, rebounds in a big way, and now assists and the dominance. And a killer that's getting 30 points and 8 assists, all while having 3 other killers on his team. Jason could be averaging 45 if he's by himself. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Jaylen develops this year with that kind of attention that's paid for him. By the way, did you catch the Celtics coaching staff thrashing Boston's media the other day?
I saw that, bro. I want to do that next year and play with the media. I don't know how I get on Celtics media, but I feel as though I can make up for that 50-point deficit. I like Jay King. I think Jay King got some possibilities. I feel if we got guys out the equipment room, if we brought Chris and we brought Big Ben, a couple ringers. There's a couple ringers. You know what I mean? Because a couple guys on that staff were All-Americans. They were college All-Americans.
Yeah, NBA guys too.
The one dude shot from half court. I'm come on, bro. Pick on someone your own size, bro.
I actually like this idea. I think that you when you get to Boston, do a couple of TV hits there. Eddie House is there. Scal is there. You could put some guys out there that all of a sudden.
Let Paul Pierce bring it home.
Paul Pierce, part of the media contingent. Let him go out there. Let him knock Joe Mazzulla down a little bit.
I'm not gonna lie. I would really be ready for that. I would prepare for that. We got to work it out. We'll figure it out.
I love it. We'll make it work. We'll get in touch with NBC Sports Boston and make sure you're a credentialed member of the media there this year. E.T., great stuff, man. Always good to catch up, and we will do this again next week.
Thank you, big dog. Appreciate you.